guys, and welcome back to Mysteries of the Mind, a true crime podcast hosted by myself, Daphne Sinclair.
And me, Preston Knight. Today we're diving even deeper into the case of Dr. Love, a psychiatrist at a rural Philadelphia asylum who ran away with one of her patients.
We here at Mysteries of the Mind have gotten our hands on never-before-seen records that the asylum had tried and has now failed to bury.
We're discussing the doctor, who we now know to be Dr. Audrey Ann Burnett.
And her patient-turned-lover, Hazel Mary Finley.
And how their relationship developed.
Last week we delved into the blossoming of their relationship, even hearing their first kiss on tape.
This week, we dig deeper into Hazel's mystery illness and Dr. Burnett's psyche.
Stay tuned!
Maya Appavoo presents Dr. Love, an audio drama. Episode 4, Clinically Unstable. A full list of themes, topics, and content warnings can be found in the episode description.
Right, guys, time for our favorite segment, Mindful Musings.
This is the part of the episode where we take your guys' questions and food for thought and answer and discuss.
All right, shall we?
We shall. Alrighty, first up at Dara asked, LOL, do you guys even like each other?
Oh no. Okay, so for those who don't know, Preston and I met in school years ago, and we've been very close friends ever since.
That's why we started a podcast.
I think this commenter is maybe getting at the fact that we challenge each other a good amount, I would say.
Yeah, I think, maybe I challenge you more, but, sure.
Sure.
Anyways, yes, we like each other. No, there's no bad blood or animosity. Just a healthy amount of friction to keep each other checked and balanced.
Oh, okay. All right, next question.
Sure. This one is from Ikaros, one of our beloved Patreon supporters. They asked, Daphne, would you be able to give us some context for the time we skipped over last episode? There were weeks or months between clips, and I'm curious if there's anything we missed with that, especially in regards to Hazel's antidepressants. Love the podcast.
That's a great question. Thank you, Ikaros. So Hazel was on a whole bunch of different tricyclic antidepressants.
Oh,
and
interesting, huh?
Yeah, I hadn't named them all because, well, frankly, those notes are kind of boring. And from what I can tell, they're not medications that are really used anymore.
Well, if I can speak to that for a moment.
Sure.
You see, tricyclic antidepressants are really interesting because they were very effective. The common belief is that the meds we don't use anymore are out of circulation because they didn't work, but TCAs, which is just the abbreviation, worked very well. They work sort of the same as SSRIs, which are what we use now, but TCAs had a tendency, as we witnessed with Hazel, to cause some pretty intense side effects.
Oh, fascinating. So, wait, is it possible that the reason Hazel felt so bad isn't because she didn't have depression, but instead because the meds made her feel so bad that it was genuinely better not to be on them?
No. No, they were effective, but, clearly not for Hazel, which means she likely didn't have depression. Anyway, I interrupted. Yeah, you can go ahead and answer the question.
Oh, right. So, most of the clips from that time period were, honestly pretty lackluster. I tried when I was selecting journal entries and clips to make sure I was showing you guys the actual important stuff. And Hazel sitting there talking about a headache and Dr. Burnett taking notes about it wasn't very important, in my opinion. But more of those materials will be made available over on our Patreon at the end of the season, as per usual.
Okay, last one. It's kind of a sillier one. So if you were tuned in last week, you'll know that Daphne brutally shamed me, a gay man, for never having a girlfriend. So Holly, another one of our Patreon supporters, asked Daphne, have you ever had a girlfriend?
Holly, are you flirting with me? My DMs are open. No, but in all seriousness, I don't really want to talk about my personal love life on the show. But it exists. Yeah, I'll say that much.
All right, that's it for Mindful Musings this week. If you have questions for us, comment them wherever you find us on the internet, and we might just answer it. So, getting into this week's topics, we were going to discuss Dr. Burnett's psyche a bit more.
Mm-hmm. So, we haven't touched on this much as of yet. So, what have you gathered up until this point?
Well, I've touched on a couple of points that I think are worth mentioning again. I think that Dr. Burnett, as one of the first female psychiatrists of her generation, probably had something to prove, and therefore saw, Hazel as a puzzle she needed to solve. I'm not saying that's the only way she saw Hazel, but I think that is a facet we have to consider when we're talking about Dr. Burnett.
For sure.
I also think that Dr. Burnett does, to a certain extent, allow her personal affections for Hazel to get in the ways of codes of conduct and common policies. I don't think we know what this asylum's policies were.
No, we don't
but
have that.
I think we can safely assume, based on Hazel's journal entry about Dr. Burnett, doing things she wasn't technically supposed to be doing, that there were several violations of those policies. And I mean, that's why we're studying this case, right? We know things went off the rails, but I'm interested in what prompted Dr. Burnett to go against hospital policy for Hazel. There's no evidence that she did that for any other patient. There's no evidence that, she ever poured this much time and care into another patient. What about Hazel intrigued her so much?
I think that
it brings me right back to that idea that Hazel is, to a certain extent, an intellectual problem that Dr. Burnett wants to solve. I mean, right off the bat, she dismisses Hazel's previous diagnosis of schizophrenia. Then they spent, how many months testing different antidepressants before dismissing that diagnosis as well. I think Dr. Burnett got a thrill out of this and didn't necessarily want it to end. Whew.
Okay. Yeah, on that note, let's get into our first clip. So this takes place in April of 1952, a couple months later. So at this point, Hazel is not on any medications and does not have an actual diagnosis attached.
Hazel, I used to steal money out of my mom's purse to buy lipstick.
Really?
Yes, except I didn't want her to see me wearing a new lipstick and wonder how I bought it, so I just bought the same 3 shades over and over. She had this routine of falling asleep on the couch around 8 o'clock after she'd clean up dinner. So I'd wait until she was snoring, then go to her purse and take out the small bills. The trick was to do a little at a time. A couple coins here and there she'd never think twice about. I think she thought they'd slipped out of her coin pouch at the store.
God, I'm so glad I'm never having kids.
Me too. Well, the real kicker, my first paycheck when I was a resident, I went out and bought her lipstick. Well, she didn't know why I was buying her lipstick, so then I had to explain it to her. She chased me out of the house.
Audrey! Did she ever forgive you?
Oh, I'm sure, on her deathbed. She was a good mother like that. I like seeing you smile, Hazel.
Cartoons, video games, leftist politics. If you too exist in this personality intersection, consider checking out my YouTube channel where I do art analysis video essays. It's less pretentious than it sounds. You can find my channel at the link in the episode description.
Curious about the Patreon page Daphne and Preston keep referencing? Well, we've got bonus content over on the Doctor Love Ko-fi. If you're interested in ad-free episodes, all the scripts, exclusive content, and more, check out the link in the description to head to our website for more information.
Do you mind if I start?
No, go ahead.
I just like to dig in for a moment into why Dr. Burnett is trying so hard in that clip to make Hazel laugh. I think it could be a couple of things. Circling back for a moment to the idea that she may have had something to prove. I think there's maybe something here about Dr. Burnett needing Hazel to like her. Yes, Dr. Burnett would have had something to prove to her colleagues, but doesn't she also have something to prove to her patients? Doesn't she have to convince her patients that she is capable of making them smile again?
I think that...
Alternatively, it's possible that this is a technique that Dr. Burnett is using, in an attempt to pull Hazel out of her shell more, to encourage Hazel to share more information that could help lead to a diagnosis. Dr. Burnett is sharing something personal, very personal, vulnerable even, to create the feeling of a safe space. Then she makes Hazel laugh to disarm her, and it's the perfect recipe to encourage Hazel to share, maybe even overshare in an effort to learn something that could be helpful. Whew.
I'd like to take a stab at a psychological theory here.
Oh, yes, please.
So it's just... I've heard this word, and I think it could be relevant here.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
I think what Dr. Burnett is doing here is a behavioral term called, and I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, I probably have.
Called flirting.
Very funny.
If we're ready to move on, I have a passage from Hazel's journal I'd like to read.
All right, sure.
I think Audrey and I might have something real. We can't tell anyone about it, for if they knew two women were taking late-night strolls through the courtyard, I don't know what would become of us. But the stroll we took last night, just the two of us, was the most alive I felt in years. It was perfect. It was a full moon, so it was beautifully lit up, and there was a breeze, so Audrey had brought me a blanket to wrap around my shoulders. We walked and talked, and then we sat under the oak tree. She put her head on my shoulder and told me she's never liked a man the way she likes me. It was a wonder I could hear her over the sound of my own heart pounding. We sat like that for a while, then she kissed me again, and I don't know how to describe it. In some ways, it feels very wrong, but at the same time, nobody's ever cared for me like she does.
So that definitely goes against some policy or code.
It does. I think it's so romantic. A moonlit stroll in a courtyard? Like, are you kidding me?
So does Hazel say in her journal entry who invited who on the stroll?
No, but we can safely assume it was an off-the-record discussion, right?
Yeah, clearly. I think it had to have been Dr. Burnett propositioning her, Like Hazel couldn't have left her room on her own, and when have we ever known her to ask favors of anyone?
Yeah, that's true. But, what's your point?
I don't know that I have one. I just think it's worth looking at the relationship from all angles. I think as the more, for lack of a better word, credible between the two, Dr. Burnett certainly has more freedom to pursue Hazel. I kind of wonder what prompted her to take Hazel out for that stroll.
Hazel was off any antidepressants at this point, and clearly not actively in a depressive episode, but also, hadn't those walks been part of, her treatment? It could have been that Hazel just had a bad day.
That's possible for sure.
Or, again, that behavioral term. Oh, what was it again?
Okay, I see your point.
Are we ready for the next clip?
Yep.
How are you doing, Hazel?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. I've been a bit busy.
Busy?
Well, my birthday is in a couple weeks, and I don't like to make a big deal of it, but my dad's on my case because we didn't celebrate last year.
Which day?
Oh, it's the 24th.
That's coming up quick.
Yes, it is.
Oh, and I can't get you anything.
No, Hazel. That's okay. You don't need to buy me presents.
I know, but can I do anything to make that day special for you?
No. Don't worry about it, Hazel.
But I want to.
It's okay. I won't even be in on the 24th. I'm taking the day off, so you won't see me.
What? Why are you taking the day off?
I know that it upsets your routine a bit, Hazel, but
Last year you were here on your birthday, weren't you?
Yes, Hazel.
Is it that bad to be here with me?
Oof.
Yeah, oof. It's rough.
There's, a lot to unpack here.
Before you start, I think you'll want to hear these notes from Dr. Burnett. Hazel has withdrawn. For periods of time, she appears to be nonverbal, seemingly incapable of speaking even if she wants to. And for other periods of time, it's clear she doesn't want to speak to us. Nurse Amelia has noted several instances where Hazel has been so focused on painting or reading that she refuses food for a full day until she is experiencing hunger pains and is impatient and irritable while waiting for a rush dinner. Hazel has also been heard having long bouts of weeping. Then the couple next sentences I just couldn't decipher. It's just total chicken scratch. But then I hypothesize that Hazel may have a disordered personality. Her symptoms and experiences seem to align with the diagnostic guidelines for emotional unstable personality disorder. Assessment appointment is scheduled for next Friday in the hopes that this episode subsides before then.
So, the next Thursday in question...
It was the day after Dr. Burnett's birthday. Thoughts?
Yeah, just give me a moment. I'm just trying to put my thoughts into words.
Sure.
Okay, I think that Dr. Burnett is, quite frankly, grasping at straws.
Oh?
I mean, I guess for the time, this was maybe a sound theory, but there's no such thing as emotionally unstable personality disorder these days. I'm not sure specifically what she's referring to then, in terms of diagnostic criteria. I believe emotionally unstable personality disorder was renamed histrionic personality disorder, which is characterized by extreme, attention-seeking behavior.
Oh, so not Hazel's vibe.
I mean, like I said a couple of weeks ago, it could be borderline personality disorder, which might be what emotionally unstable personality disorder is called now. Take a shot every time I say personality disorder. But I just don't know about this diagnosis.
I have a theory here.
Yes?
So I did a bit of research when I read this entry because I hadn't heard of emotionally unstable personality disorder before. And I found out that the treatment for it is to lobotomize...
Which, for our listeners at home, is a treatment that is literally just damaging the brain.
Yeah, exactly. But it couldn't be performed without the consent of Hazel's husband or parents, who, as we know, were both dead.
Correct.
So I wonder if Dr. Burnett was attempting to diagnose Hazel with something that didn't have a viable treatment option. There weren't, and I think still aren't, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, any medications that can treat a personality disorder, really. Like, sometimes they'll prescribe, like, an antidepressant or something, but that's not...
Yeah, that's kind of it. The main treatment for personality disorders, is therapy in most cases. And the modalities used now, like DBT for BPD, hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
I mean, so why wouldn't she want Hazel to have viable treatment options?
So that Hazel doesn't have to go through more of it. She saw how hard it was on Hazel's spirit to be on and off different medications, and the next treatment the hospital execs would be using is to lobotomize. But there's no way to do that if Hazel doesn't have anyone to consent for her. So, it's basically a license for Hazel to live her life without further medical trauma. Maybe that's why the diagnosis seems off to you.
Maybe, I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
Well, in the meantime, why don't we listen to the next clip?
All right, sure.
Hazel, did you hear what I said? Hazel, I can't leave until we talk. If I leave before we talk, the higher-ups will be upset, and I don't know if they'll keep me around. I'm held to a different standard than the other doctors.
Okay.
Thank you, Hazel. You haven't been very talkative for the last few days or so.
No,
Why is that?
I'm not in the mood to talk.
Is this about my birthday?
I've been painting, so I've been too busy to talk, really.
What have you been painting?
The sunrise, courtyard, you.
Me?
I was going to paint you a nice portrait for your office as a birthday gift. But you didn't want anything for your birthday, not from me.
Hazel, that's not what it is.
Don't lie to me. Don't I get punished enough?
That's not...
Never mind. You don't get it. None of you do.
Let's wrap it up here for today.
Journey to a realm of nerdy and dirty fantasy, voiced by your favorite audiobook narrators. Punch and Roll for Initiative is a D&D podcast made up of audiobook narrators and taking place in an original world created by the cast. In the wake of planar war, our cast of heroes strive to make a name for themselves as a growing threat from the world below looms. Find Punch and Roll for Initiative on Spotify and anywhere else you get your podcasts. Catch the stream every other Friday on YouTube, follow on social media, and join the Well Divers today. Welcome back, everyone.
You know, I think I'd like to keep discussing that personality disorder thing.
Sure.
As I said earlier, emotionally unstable personality disorder, it doesn't really exist anymore. It's not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about borderline or histrionic being potential diagnoses for Hazel if she were, being treated in the modern era of psychiatric medicine. But during the break, I did take another look at my books on personality disorders.
In the 10 minutes?
Well, I mean, I just, needed my memory jogged, and I kind of wonder about the schizophrenia diagnosis. Now, the DSM, which is a manual that classifies many disorders and illnesses, including personality disorders, wasn't published until 1952. So I wonder if Dr. Green and Dr. Burnett had just never come across schizoid personality disorder.
Oh, okay. What's that?
Well, I mean, it's usually a pattern of detachment and antisocial behavior. Something like 40% of people with schizoid personalities end up with schizophrenia later on, too.
I don't know. I think Hazel very much wants to connect with others and just, struggles.
Which brings me to my next theory, dependent personality disorder. Basically, someone who is, clinically clingy.
Oh.
Usually, they rely on others to fulfill their needs, both emotional and physical.
Okay, I think that it was probably difficult for Dr. Burnett to pin down anything in particular because, it was the 1950s.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, homosexuality was considered a mental illness for years, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think she was working with very much. Well, and honestly, how much have we advanced since then?
Psychology has made huge strides in the past, 70 years? Yeah, 70 years. But I see your points, I mean, it's that paradox, right? If the human brain were simple enough that we could understand it, we'd be too simple to understand it.
Huh?
Anyway, yeah. I think it's possible that Dr. Burnett just didn't have the right research at the time, to accurately diagnose Hazel. I also do think that it is possible that Dr. Burnett may have had a personality disorder herself.
What?
Something like obsessive-compulsive personality disorder, which might explain her intense focus on solving the issue of Hazel's mystery illness.
Okay, I could see that. Next clip?
Go for it.
All right, Hazel, honey, here are the oil paints you needed.
Thank you.
Of course. Can I get you anything else? Tea and cookies, maybe?
No, I'm not in the mood.
Do you want to talk about it, honey?
I can't tell you anything.
What? Why not?
I can't say.
Well, I have something that might cheer you up a bit. Hazel.
My goodness. Dr. Burnett. I thought you were taking today off.
I am, see? No slacks. Would you go get ice cream with me? For my birthday?
Oh my God, yes. Happy birthday. Yes.
Here's some fresh clothes. Why don't you go get changed in the restroom?
All right.
Thank you, Nurse Amelia, for helping me with this. I know you're sticking your neck out.
Well, anything for Hazel. She's a sweet girl.
She is. And she really benefits from outings. It's not good for someone to be cooped up for so long.
Mm-hmm. She does so much better with just a bit of sunshine and fresh air. Besides, I think she deserved a good day. I don't know what you heard.
It's all just talk, Nurse Amelia. I wouldn't worry about it.
I don't know where she would go.
She's not going anywhere.
You're right. No use in worrying. She's happy today.
She is.
You're a good doctor.
You're a good nurse.
I'm ready to go.
And don't you look like the picture of spring? Come on, let's slip out before anyone sees us.
Yes, go!
So, Daphne, do you know what Nurse Amelia was alluding to near the end there?
Right, yes. I believe she's alluding to the talk of the asylum being converted into a nursing home, which, as we know, never ended up fully going through.
Right, okay. So she was worried about Hazel being kicked out of the facility soon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I think that it's kind of Dr. Burnett to try to, give her an outing, treat the source of that moody episode Hazel was going through.
I agree. And I think technically this counts as their first date. And it's
this is definitely a milestone in that relationship. I think we can see perhaps, how Dr. Burnett managed to sneak her away for good. If it was seemingly really easy to sneak her out for an afternoon.
Yeah, maybe.
But there's something really interesting here in the way Hazel just perks up, and in the way Nurse Amelia knows that it's because of Dr. Burnett, even though she didn't, well, I'm assuming she didn't know about their affair.
No, Nurse Amelia didn't know. We'll get to what Nurse Amelia thought what was going on, though.
Okay.
I just think that was so sweet of her, though. Dr. Burnett never mentions this in her journals, but I think that this was a bending of the rules. My understanding, based on the files I received, is that Hazel was permitted 1 or 2 outings a year, but rarely received them. So I think this was an effort to squeeze in an extra one.
That's interesting. So Nurse Amelia was kind of sticking out her neck, especially since
Dr. Burnett was off the clock.
Well, I can't wait to delve into more of this.
Me too. And, we'll get into some of the more long-term consequences of this next week, exclusively here on Mysteries of the Mind.
I've been Preston Knight, our resident psychology nerd.
And I've been Daphne St. Clair, our hopeless romantic. Thanks for tuning in.
We'll see you right back here this time next week. Bye-bye.
Dr. Love is written and directed by Maya Appavoo and produced by Maya Appavoo and Monica Gate. Starring the voice acting talents of Madeline Harsh as Daphne, Jacob Martin as Preston, Abby McDougall as Dr. Burnett, and Emily Lazat as Hazel. Additional voices by Cleo Birch. Post-production management by Monica Gate. Sound design for this episode by Ace Luke, and music by Ken Kosowick. The full list of credits and disclaimers can be found in the episode description or on our website, appoova.ca/portfolio/doctorlove. Follow us on social media. We are at Dr. Love Pod on everything. Dr. Love is supported by the Edmonton Arts Council and the City of Edmonton. Thank you for listening.